Hi, welcome back to a brand new video snippet from Angels and Syrup, the video book. Today we're going to read the second part of Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is entitled Norway, and it'll make perfect sense once we get started. If you're ready, here we go. Norway, the soothing voice intoned, is much more than a land of the midnight sun, stunning fjords, and busy and fascinating cities like Oslo and Bergen. Tucked tightly into a picture postcard panorama that stretches between the power of the North Atlantic to the majestic mountains that keep their lonely vigil for over 1,000 miles, from the lovely wooden churches of Kristiansand to the rugged remote archipelago of Svalbard, home to a few rugged descendants of the Vikings, polar bears, reindeer, and Arctic foxes, Norway is an unforgettable adventure. Dave settled himself in the comforting caress of the couch and tried to concentrate on the beautiful images that filled the screen. Most tourists, the voice continued, just see the Norway in a nutshell that the cruise companies and travel agents cram into week-long packages. But the intrepid traveler will find much, much more to pique his or her interest. Bast's soft purring was just the tonic that Dave needed after 2 days that had become increasingly full of angels and whatever it was that he had drunk last night. And the gentle voice covered him in soft words that matched the beautiful video of unmatched splendor. Dave snuggled into the soothing narration. Begin your adventure in Oslo, where the fun extends from this tiny Norsk Turo museum, a collection of the tricks, props, and costumes used by Norwegian stage magicians, all stuffed into a tiny apartment, to the larger but just as eccentric mini bottle museum, where you can view over 50,000 miniature bottles, each one filled with its original liquor, to museums that celebrate Norway's seafaring heritage, Thor Heyerdahl's Kon-Tiki, the brave wooden-hulled ship Fram that explored the Arctic, and the Viking Ship Museum, home to 3 Viking longships, the Thun ship, the Gokstad ship, and the Oseberg ship. If you bring your evening clothes, you can take in a performance of Hedda Gabler or the Magic Flute at the Oslo Opera House, a magnificent building designed to remind one of the nation's many glaciers. When you are tired of the indoors, you can visit the enchanting Vigeland Sculpture Garden with its wonderful man attacked by babies, or the original fountain that once stood in front of the Norwegian Parliament in Frogner Park, or head north of the city to the Korkeltrekkenrenn, the corkscrew, where you can toboggan from one train stop to another. Dave found himself fascinated by the friendly foreign land. As much fun as Oslo is, your trek is just beginning. Take the train west towards Bergen and the fjords, the lilting voice went on. Norway is a well-organized land with an excellent and efficient system of trains, buses, and ferries to aid its citizens and its visitors on their journeys. Dave found himself nodding at the man's enthusiastic explanation. So buy a rail pass, make your reservations a week in advance, and take the train toward Bergen. You'll never forget the ride. The narrator's voice rose a little in pitch, betraying his own excitement. You will leave early in the morning on one of the world's most scenic train lines, traveling 300 miles through almost twice as many tunnels and bridges, and rising to almost a mile above sea level, past glaciers, bare heaths, dark, dense forests, and even more stunning scenery before you reach the little town of Myrdal 7 hours later. There you will change trains for the dizzying drop into the village of Flam, which lies on the shore of the magnificent Sognefjord, Norway's longest and deepest fjord. Spend the night in one of the quaint little guest houses in the tiny town and rent a bicycle and take the train back up the line to Berikvan, where you can bike down an unforgettable road with the most stupendous views of the fjord, back to Flam. Dave had begun to plan his next vacation when the soothing voice told him even more. In Flam you can catch the ferry up Sognefjord to the World Heritage Site of the Nærøyfjord, a place so remarkable that the world-famous National Geographic Society has named it its #1 World Heritage Site. The fjord is 11 miles long and only 500 feet wide in some places. It was the inspiration for Arendelle in the movie Frozen. Dave loved that movie. And as the narrator droned on and on about the glories of Norway, Dave sang softly to Bast and himself, "Let it go, let it go. I am one with the wind and sky. Let it go, he'll never see me cry." And then Dave saw something on the screen that stopped the song in his throat. This troll's tongue, or trolltunga, as the Norwegians call it, the travelogue's narrator continued, has perhaps the most spectacular view in Norway, and is one of the most difficult to reach. An 8 or 9 hour hike through the mountains and deep forests past towering waterfalls will get you to this dangerous ledge that sticks out of a cliffside above a half-mile drop. The view is worth the effort needed to get there, but be careful, there's no safety railing. And Dave stopped listening to the narrator when he saw who was sitting on the ledge. It looked to Dave like that Valkyrie from yesterday, or her twin, sitting next to someone. Dave couldn't be sure until the image on the screen turned, noticed him, and called out, "Dave!" Dave felt like he had been hit in the stomach. The wind knocked out of him. And the little figure on television began to wave at him and yell, "Dave, Dave, over here! Hey, how are ya?" The Valkyrie on the TV realized that Dave wasn't responding to her greetings and stood up on the rocky outcrop and began jumping up and down and waving even more energetically. "Dave, it's me, Hrist. You remember? We waved to each other yesterday. Harvey told you about me." And then the Valkyrie, for that was indeed who it was, turned to her companion and said, "Sir Raphael, check it out. It's Dave. You know, the human I met yesterday. He's a friend of Harvey's." The Valkyrie's friend turned to Dave and waved to Dave without saying anything. That was, for Dave, just as well, since this angel had 6 wings and was covered in eyes, hundreds of them, even under his wings, it turned out. Sir Raphael spread his wings, every single one of them, as he waved to Dave. The Valkyrie saw Dave's consternation and said, "Don't worry, Dave. Sir Raphael is the strong, silent type. He just doesn't have much to say, but he's cool. Hey, he came to sit on the troll's tongue with me. That takes some balls." Then the Valkyrie passed her drinking horn to her intrepid friend. "Down the hatch," she whooped. "So Dave," the Valkyrie on the television said, "you're not at work. Are you not feeling well? Heck, after what you drank last night, I'd feel pretty punk too." This was rapidly becoming too much for Dave. "Hrist," he said to the figure in the travelogue on his television, "it's nice to see you too, but how do you know what I drank last night?" "I forgot that you're new to this, Dave," the Valkyrie said. "You see, space and time just aren't the same things to angels that they are to people." Dave felt the need for another drink and saw a half glass of last night's concoction sitting on the kitchen counter across the room. Dave said, "Excuse me for a minute, Hrist. I think I could use another drink." Hrist laughed. "I'd think twice about any more of that fallen angel you whipped up last night if I were you." "Fallen angel?" Dave stopped, turned back to the TV and asked her. "That's what it's called, Dave. Gin, white creme de menthe, bitters, and limes, or lemons if that's what you got. It's an old prohibition drink. And as you found out, it'll knock you on your keister. I like mine shaken, not stirred, but that's just me," she laughed delightedly, a sound closer to the ringing of tiny silver bells mixed with a baby's happy squeal than anything else Dave could think of. "But sometimes you just need a little bit of the hair of the dog. What bit you?" the adorable Acer angel announced. She was right. That was, Dave decided, exactly what he needed. He walked over to the counter and picked up the glass, and then, remembering his 2 new friends on the TV, he turned and lifted his glass to them and gave the only Norwegian toast that he knew. "We toast to our friends and those we know, and those we don't know we don't give a shit about." Hrist laughed and took a long drink from the horn in reply in solidarity, and then handed it to the Seraph, who emptied it and handed it back to the Valkyrie. She lifted what should have been an empty horn to her lips again and took another drink. When she looked at Dave's confusion, she chuckled again and said, "This horn is never empty, Dave. It's one of the perks of the job." Dave nodded. It was the only thing he could do. "Hey, Dave," Hrist said, "we'll see you soon." And she laughed again. "And those you don't know, I think you'll be meeting them all pretty soon, too. We've got to give the travelogue back to the narrator. Be good, and if you can't be good, be careful." Hrist and the Seraph dissolved into laughter, and the image on the screen dissolved away from the troll's tongue and became a picture of a beautiful and intricately carved stave church that overlooked the fjord. And so we bid a fond farewell, or farvel, as the Vikings would say, to our Norwegian friends who are lucky to live in a land of enchantment. The narrator's solid, soothing voice intoned as a slideshow of glorious mountains, ocean, and deep valleys flashed on the screen.